What's going on, guys? This is Burrs here to talk to you today about home defense and flashlight usage. A lot of different opinions on both sides of the fence that we're going to talk about. But first off, let's talk about a weapon-mounted light. A lot of people say you only need a weapon-mounted light. And a lot of people say you shouldn't use a weapon-mounted light because you're going to be pointing this, at people that possibly are your loved ones, not the enemy. So the only thing to identify with is your light that's on your gun. Which, if you're pointing your light at something, you're also pointing your gun at something. And I can understand that point. And then a lot of people say you only need a flashlight. You don't want to have a light on your gun. You can kind of go over the side like this. There's a lot of different techniques you can use. The one that I know of is putting your wrist together as close as possible. That's how one way you can do it. Another way is just to use it up here. A lot of people say, oh, do the FBI thing. The problem with that is, it doesn't matter where that light is, there's still going to be bullets flying by. So whether you have it here and you're momentarily using it, or you have it here and you're momentarily using it, it doesn't really matter. Either way, you're giving up your position. And if it's up here, I'm still within a foot of myself. So in my opinion, I really don't see the cons of both or even one of them. I feel as though having a weapon-mounted light and a light to have in your other hand is the best possible situation. If you can shoot one-handed, there's no problem with shooting one-handed, and if you are going around your house, which is filled with people you love, if you have a family or even roommates, etc., you have this light to identify, okay? This can kind of act like a backup light to a degree. Use this light to identify, oh, look, that's Johnny. Johnny, go into the room, whatever you're doing there, you have this light to do that with. When you're using this light, that's the weapon-mounted light, and you point that at someone to identify them, you're basically pointing your gun at them as well. Which is a no-no in many aspects of, it's a very high-stress situation. Would you rather first identify something with this, with this gun at the ready, or would you rather identify this right here, and then you're in a very stressful situation, you shoot someone by accident? I would rather go around with a flashlight, and this as a secondary light. One flashlight is none, two flashlights is one, is basically how I'm looking at this with my situation, the way I run things in my house. A lot of people will talk about the fact that if you have a weapon-mounted light, you're giving away your position. If I'm here, someone can just shoot towards this light and hit me. So you'll see a lot of people talk about, I think, the old FBI lantern technique where you have it, up here. But in that case, you're still within a foot of your body. So someone spraying bullets at you, if they were a bad person, someone willing to do you harm, it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to take one shot at that light, bang. Well, as you're going to see, it doesn't matter. Now, it's not super dark in here, but let's just have an idea of what will happen. You can still see that my arm is what's holding this light, okay? You can still see my silhouette. You can see my glasses, you can see my eyeballs, even with the light way out here. Okay? You can still see a silhouette of what's going on. So the people who come out and say, if you do this, you won't get shot because they'll be shooting through the light and it's nowhere near you, you still are demonstrating a silhouette in an absolutely dark environment when you have a flashlight in your vicinity. So, would you rather this or would you rather have this? Let's take a look at the other with the actually using the weapon-mounted light to identify. So as you can see, okay, sure, shoot for the light and you still see a silhouette. To a degree. So let's set up a scenario where I'm going through my house with the lantern FBI technique, I think is what it's called, compared to a weapon-mounted light. So if I'm going through the house with my gun at ready and this pointed directly below the camera, say you're the threat, and I'm within about 10 feet of the camera. So I have my gun pointed at the ready, going around and checking things out. You can still see my silhouette. If I have my gun extended, you can see that there's a silhouette of that gun as well. You can see my eyeballs with this technique. Okay? Now, let's try the weapon-mounted light. If I have this weapon-mounted light pointed out directly at the same spot, you see somewhat of a silhouette, but you still see the flashlight as well. So, in my opinion, it doesn't much matter what you're doing as far as this technique or this technique. You're still giving away your position and you're giving away your silhouette even if you use the technique up here, okay? Over here, up here. If you're trying to look, directly in front of you, to the side, even if you come along the side here and you have it way over here because you're looking off to the right, that's really going to give away your gun that you have, at the ready down here. You're going to give that away in a silhouette as well. So I think ultimately the best thing to do in this situation, and I'd love to hear everyone's comments and their feedback on this, is to have a weapon-mounted light as well as a handheld light to go through your house or whatever you're doing. You should always have 2 flashlights. And that gets to a second point, whereas you don't want too much light in the house. And that gets us to our second point with lumens. You want to have something under 200 lumens. You don't want anything over 200 lumens, as far as like these lights here are about 400 to 600 lumens. You do not need that in your house to identify things. It's already going to be pitch black for the most part if you're using your weapon at night, and what's going to happen is that could possibly bounce off of things in your house and actually shine into your eyes as well. So keeping it under 200 lumens is definitely something that I like, and that's why you see a lot of weapon mounted lights are under 200 lumens. You don't see weapon mounted lights that are like 600 lumens, because there's no need for that on a pistol. And that's one reason why you see weapon mounted lights around the 200 or less lumen mark. Now you'll see a little bit more when it comes to putting it on a rifle. You're going to have a lot more throw and a lot more power needed to get out there to the 200 yard range with a flashlight on your gun. But as far as in your house, you don't need that much throw. You do not need that much light to identify something. So having something around the 100 to 150 mark is definitely what I recommend, and that's what I use. I use this Fenix E21 as my handheld, and I have the TLR1 as my primary weapon light here. So I try to keep it that way because if you have too much lighting, like this 650 lumen, this 450 lumen, if you have that inside of a house, number one, you're going to be giving up your position, very much so, because of the amount of light that it is. Number two, you're also going to, like I said, possibly be bouncing the light off of different things in your house back into your eyes, which is something you don't want either. So trying to keep that under 200 lumens is definitely one of the things that I think is a good kind of baseline for weapon-mounted lights, using it inside of a house. Another thing is to actually check the batteries in your lights pretty much every month. Make sure that light turns on. I know with the one light I have here, which is more my outdoor light, it has different modes. This is a Fenix TK22, 650 lumens. So if I have it on the highest setting and the batteries are running low, it'll automatically push itself down to lower settings. Okay, and that's what that's when you gotta turn it down. If you've had something and you've been using your flashlight on and off for a while, you definitely want to make sure to change out the batteries. I recommend changing out your batteries pretty much every 3 months or so, just to make sure that you are on top of your program, especially for your home defense situation. Handguns and lights, those really need to be changed out pretty much every 3 months. Those you're depending on with your life. Is your life worth $10 a year in batteries or not, is basically how it comes down to. And when someone's coming around the corner and you're in your bedroom and you're trying to identify something, that's the worst time that you want something to go like this. Okay, so make sure that you always take care of your batteries, make sure you have fresh ones on hand, change them out every 3 months, and you'll be pretty much good to go as far as using those flashlights in a situation you might have. Also, make sure you go around at nighttime in your house with only your flashlight. Go through your house and make sure you know every square inch of it, and where lighting will assist you and not assist you, and where you really need lighting. Because to a degree, you're the one that knows your house. You're the only person besides people who live in the house that knows the inside of your house. You know where your baby's squeaky toy is. You know where the dog food dish is. You know where all these things are in your home because you walk around them all the time. So doing that every couple times a year, just walking around your house in the pitch dark, and also walking around your house and using a flashlight and seeing what it does when say you have an intruder in your house, and you want to make sure that you know your house inside and out, particularly in dark situations. So go around at night with your flashlight and just kind of put yourself in situations and scenarios. Have a friend or your wife or whatever put something around the house, and then you go and try and find that and give that, then they could give you feedback on how that looked to them as the way you approached it and how you can approach it better. So there's different things you can do which have nothing to do with live fire at all. You can dry fire, you can do all kinds of stuff with your gun that has nothing to do with actually using live ammunition. The thing you're trying to avoid is someone is trying to get into your house, or there's some noise and you see out front that it's someone who maybe they're disoriented, maybe they're drunk. You would rather have a flashlight pointed at them than a gun, in my opinion. You want to have the gun, but there's no need until you identify something as a threat to even have your gun extended and using all kinds of the manipulations you can do with your gun. Identify the threat first, is my opinion on the subject. You know, putting yourself in a situation of using a flashlight first also will assist you in not making a rash decision. If you're using a flashlight, your first thing is, I'm going to identify the threat. Okay? This is secondary when you have this light, because you're using this as your primary. This is your light, so you're just, okay, I'm looking here, or I'm looking over here, I'm looking over here, okay, versus I'm looking here, I'm looking here, looking here, and your gun's always pointed at something. So the last thing you want to do is have your kid who's sleepwalking, so to speak, and you're going, oh, hey, oh, sorry. You know, you've already freaking, you know, muzzled your kid, and, you know, you don't need that to happen. So identifying a threat, first of all, is definitely going to be the way to go, in my opinion. But getting back to the point of flashlights, you know, it's good to have 2 flashlights, one in your hand, one on the gun. And if you're going either way with it, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, because 1 is none and 2 is 1. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know. If you have all your, you know, comments and responses, those video responses are always welcome. And until next time. And what I feel as though is the, you know, best way to do it in my house. Well, doggy style works.